We have a really special feature at the end of the presentation, and it has to do with country living and how God gave this individual country property without paying a nickel. And she's here on campus from Montana, and rather than me play the video interview that I have on the website, she's going to tell it to you in person, and then she's going to tell what they're doing with the property to make it a ministry, and then she's going to do something that I told her we didn't have time to do, but what's his name? Ned Lindsay? Neil Nedley, thank you. I was having a senior moment. Neil Nedley was right after us at 3:30, and so we had to get out every day so they could come in. And some of you guys maybe weren't able to come to our presentations because he alluded that if you wanted to do the 3:30, you had to come to his 2 o'clock, which is the same time we were here. So if you're here, you're welcome. But anyway, when we did this at Washington Camp Meeting, this lady that's going to be telling her story had a really neat feature at the end, because what they're doing is doing seminars at this property that they now have, using as a ministry. And she was going to come and do some hands-on demonstrations of medicinal plants. But I said, we don't have time because Neil Nedley, we have to be out. Well, Neil Nedley's gone. So we don't have to be out for a 3:30. So any of you that want to stay, she's going to do that feature that we wanted to do that we didn't think we could do. So it's going to be an interesting day. Is anybody here for the first time? Okay, a recap of what we've done, and if you want, Kathy has the handouts from before. I have a website, preparingforthetimeoftrouble.com. We've made 424 videos having to do with country living or end-time Bible prophecy, that kind of thing. We've been doing it for 10 years, been doing camp meetings and church events and stuff. And by the way, our highest viewed video is the one on planting the Ellen White method. I think we have 3,000 views, something like that. I don't remember. It might be 30,000, but it's a lot of views. Anyway, what we did the first time is we talked about being independent of the system of what we pay for. The second time we looked at each of those aspects of our lives, the grids, I call them. Like, you think of being off grid, you're off the power grid, but there's the food grid and the medical grid and the financial grid. Anything that you pay for, how prepared are you if you can't do that anymore? And it could be, we know from Bible prophecy, we're not going to be able to buy or sell during the little time of trouble. And if the different times of trouble aren't clear to you, you'll see it in this presentation. The little time of trouble is when you can't buy or sell. Jacob's time of trouble is when God's going to take care of you and your bread and water will be sure. And so anyway, we looked at the different aspects of our lives where we pay for services, and what are alternatives that you might plan ahead that you could plan to have available in the background in case you get to where you can't find those services, like toilet paper during COVID. And we also talked about EMP is a method that an enemy could do that would take our grid down, and it would affect Canada and the US both. And electronics wouldn't work. Another way is a cyber attack. They could come in through the internet and take down the grid. Another one is physically shooting at the substations, and I showed a video clip of how that happened in California. And many people think that was a dry run to find out if they could do it. If they had those teams at every major substation, they could take the whole grid down. So anyway, that was day 1 and 2. Wednesday, we talked about when you talk about country living to somebody, sometimes they'll say, well, God's going to take care of me. My bread and water will be sure. And they can even quote an Ellen White statement that will say that when basically the Sunday law gets enacted, then it's time to move out of the big cities into the smaller cities in preparatory to move to the country. That means I don't have to move out of the city. Then you'll read another statement that says, now is the time to get out of the city. You'll read another one that said you should have done it a long time ago. So Wednesday we looked at why are these differences, and we found out that if you look in the Country Living book and you look at it in chronological order of when she said them, there's a clear shift from it's in the future, now is the time, you should have already done it. And that window lined up with 1888, which is when the Blair Bill attempted to have a national Sunday law in the United States. Anyway, that's what we talked about on Wednesday. Thursday, what did we talk about yesterday? Property, what to look for in country property and how to go about looking for it. And we showed a video tour of one that was made following those principles. So now on our last session, we're going to wrap it up talking about the spiritual. Are you looking for me, Kathy? I am. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah, I accidentally turned it off the other day. I thought I was turning it on. But I fixed it. It's edited and ready to go to YouTube. Anyway, so what we're talking about today is the balance between physical preparation, which is what we've been talking about, and spiritual preparation. Because if you don't have spiritual together, then all of this is a waste of time. You're no different than a doomsday prepper. You might as well collect guns and shoot your neighbors. So that's what we're going to talk about. Thank you for those who are coming for the first time. Let's pray. Father in heaven, thank you for the opportunity we have to be at camp meeting. Thank you that it's a comfortable day, and thank you for the fans and the breeze. We thank you for the opportunity to study your word and the spirit of prophecy, to learn what you want us to know, that we can improve our lives now and in the future. We look forward to heaven, when the weather is going to be perfect, when there will be no sadness and sickness and death. We surely look forward to that and want to be there. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, so today we're going to look at preparation, which is what we've been talking about, and presumption, which is just the opposite. We're going to try to find balance between the physical and spiritual preparation. And then what I'm really excited about is this young lady is going to come and tell her story about how God gave her country property. And I'm not going to give it away because I want her to tell it to you. And then she's going to tell about some turnkey opportunities that she's using this property that may actually be of interest to you to take advantage of. So that's what we're going to do today. So, doomsday preppers. While there have always been people with enough foresight to plan for the future, it seems to have been in the last decades, there's been an emergence of prepping. This phenomena involves a person planning for some future catastrophic event by having a contingency plan, which might include some facets of preps, many facets of preps. The preparation areas could include having a backup for almost any climactic incidents. There's a wide variety of fears, including, and the way I got this list, there was a National Geographic Channel show called Doomsday Preppers. Did anybody ever see that? I don't know if it was in Canada or not, but this show was going about the time I was researching about country living and all that. So I watched literally every episode, and I would take notes of what it is they were doing that would be beneficial to a Christian, because obviously having a room full of big guns isn't part of that, to kill your neighbor. But then I went through all of the episodes and documented what it is. The way the show worked, there were three families that were visited by the National Geographic Channel, and they would ask them, "What are you worried about?" And they would say, "Oh, I'm worried about a tsunami," or "I'm worried about an EMP," or whatever they were worried about. And then they would take the film crew and see what they had done to prepare. Then they would go and do the next one and the next one. They did 3 of them in a 1-hour show. And at the end, they had a professional prepper guys that would grade them on how prepared they were in different categories. So anyway, I found that show quite interesting and useful in my presentations. But here's the list of all of the things that these people were worried about. One person is for one, one's another. So economic collapse, massive earthquakes, rising ocean levels, super tsunami, catastrophic weather, global pandemic, and this was before the pandemic, polar shift, sudden climactic change, solar flares, which we've just experienced, by the way. That's how we got the big show of the aurora borealis. By the way, those kind of phenomena are called coronal mass ejection. The sun spews a big piece of flame out, and in some cases it travels towards Earth. And if it does, it can disrupt communications and things like that. They have to route planes away from the North Pole so they don't get their GPS quits working. And when this was happening a few weeks ago, I didn't think it happened to us at all, but I'm the programming manager for our local Christian radio station. And one of our people on the board said, I had someone who listens that said, hey, your radio station just got really loud and it's full of static. And I thought, well, somebody must have turned up the transmitter because we're a low power station. So I called the guy that would have access, the two guys that would have access. They said, we didn't do anything. And the conclusion was it must have been that coronal mass ejection, northern lights kind of phenomena. Sure enough, in 2 days, it settled down and worked normally. So actually our little radio station, which has the antenna on the top of our roof, was affected by that phenomena. So anyway, okay, where are we? Solar flares, super volcano, hyperinflation. By the way, where's the biggest super volcano? Yellowstone. Yeah, Yellowstone. You'd think it'd be a Mount Rainier or something like that. It's Yellowstone. Hyperinflation, catastrophic oil crisis, EMP detonation, power grid down, terrorist attack, nuclear accident or war, civil unrest, martial law, the apocalypse, and the end of the world. You can see some of those things are actually things we believe in, like at the end. Now, there are wealthy people who are concerned about these kind of things now. This is current. The Doomsday Prepper show was about 10 years ago. But there are people right now that are preparing for the end of the world in their own worldly way. Here's a couple of video clips. We'll find out if the volume's good.
60 miles north of Dallas, far away from the constant roar of traffic, there's something going up in rural Fannin County that's still generating buzz. Developers call it Trident Lakes.
It's going to be one of America's most fun, most plush, but also one of its safest neighborhoods. It's going to be a 5-star resort with DEFCON preparedness.
This 50-foot solid marble statue and fountain being built offers a peek of what's to come, where developers lure potential residents who may have a bunker mentality, yet still enjoy the lap of luxury. Amenities include a golf course, equestrian center, spa, gun ranges, stores, and restaurants.
Is this a resort or a bunker?
Yes.
In this prairie, underground, earth-covered condos will be built with above-ground terraces, overlooking lagoons and white sand beaches.
Planners say the underground luxury condominiums will also be connected by a series of tunnels that will lead to a larger gathering space.
Aside from food, developers say the community will feature off-the-grid sources of energy and water, so people can live safely underground.
You lower your air blast lock doors, and you're safe from the dangers.
Witt says starting prices may be $500,000. The first phase is invitation only, mostly for athletes and celebrities. Phase 2 is for everyone else, and there's already a waiting list.
Billionaires are also obsessed with preparing for the end of the world. World War III, nuclear fallout, solar flares that destroy the electricity grid. Whatever you can dream of, it's not just tinfoil hat people that are prepping for it, but also the billionaires. Because as a billionaire, if you can easily afford it, why would you want to suffer along with the rest of the plus when the end times arrive? So what do? You invest a few pennies of your net worth into a doomsday bunker. We're talking a few $100 million, but that is still pennies to you. And no, we're not talking about some cold, barren, uncomfortable bunker. We're talking about luxurious billionaire bunkers with all the amenities you could dream of to keep yourself busy as the world burns down. Heck, even Mark Zuckerberg, the most vanilla tech billionaire out there, even he has hopped on the billionaire bunker train. On a secluded ranch on the island of Kauai in Hawaii, Mark has been organizing a massive secret construction operation. The construction site is hidden behind 6-foot walls to prevent any passing cars from seeing inside. The only vehicles allowed are pickup trucks carrying a variety of materials and hundreds of workers. The entire place is crawling with security guards 24/7, and no one is allowed to talk about what they're building on sites. Not even the different crews working on the site are allowed to discuss what they're doing with each other. But that's not all. Everyone who works on Zuckerberg's secret Hawaii property is also forced to sign a super strict non-disclosure agreement or NDA before being allowed inside. And this isn't just some old NDA that no one ever enforces. No, one guy working on the project has already been fired just for posting a photo on Snapchat while he was on sites. Another former employee who refused to share his identity described the project by saying it's like Fight Club. We can't talk about it. Anything posted from there, they get wind of it right away. Obviously, Mark Zuckerberg, the undisputed king of invading everyone else's privacy, is going to great lengths to make sure that no pictures or details of what he's building ever gets leaked to the public. But why? It's because he's building a massive 1,400-acre self-sufficient compound, which features a state-of-the-art doomsday bunker, just in case.
Something big. Mark Zuckerberg may be planning on his Hawaiian estate. Wired reports that Meta's founder is building a mega compound on roughly 1,400 acres of land on the island of Kauai, including an underground bunker with a concrete-filled metal door.
Just in case you have some extra change. Most preppers not only store up food and other preps, but defensive equipment such as a stockpile of guns and ammunition. The prevailing mindset seems to be if a neighbor came on the property asking for food during a crisis, the response would be an emphatic no. They would then threaten that if the individual attempted to take the provisions, they would respond with deadly force. I wondered about that when I compared the Doomsday Prepper people. There were very few on that show that didn't have guns. There was one lady that didn't, and I think she was a Mormon. But why would be the difference? And I've come to the conclusion it's evolution versus creation. We believe in creation. We believe in a creator God. We believe that God will take care of us. And if you're a believer in evolution, you believe in survival of the fittest. So if the world's falling apart, you want to be surviving. So just like in the wild kingdom, you take out the weaker species, and so that's why they have the guns, because they want to be the last man standing. There are many reasons that a person might prepare for man-made and natural events that would interrupt one's life. But besides these common reasons that doomsday preppers have for being prepared, a Christian has even more insights into the future and therefore reasons to plan. The Bible foretells a time when those who are faithful to God will not be able to buy or sell. He causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark in their right hand or on their foreheads, and that no one may buy or sell except him that has the mark of the name of the beast or the number of his name. Revelation 13. The Christian prepper would have a drastically different reaction than the worldly prepper. If one learns a lesson from Bible examples, such as Elijah and the widow, God will bless our kindness and make up our deficiencies beyond our preps. Jed's dad was Jerry Franklin. He's passed away, and he did a seminar in Arizona that was the second country living seminar that we went to when we made our transition back into the country. And I remember at the end of Jerry Franklin's seminar, they had questions and answers, and somebody said, okay, so now you've moved out in the country and you made this big garden, and now things all fall apart, and a neighbor comes and says, we're hungry, we need food, what are you going to do? At that point, all I'd been thinking about taking care of my family. I hadn't thought about that question. And Jerry Franklin, without batting an eye, said, I'm going to share my food. And he talked about how God blessed Elijah and the widow, because even though the widow was prepared, she shared and God blessed. And I believe that no matter how much you prepare for when you can't buy or sell, you're going to not have everything you need. You may not have enough food. You may not have this or that. But if you're willing to be a sharing Christian, that doesn't mean give it to marauding gangs, but someone that's truly in need. I believe God will bless you, and you're not going to run out, and neither will they. Country Living, page 10, God will bless your efforts to do what he asks. The storm is coming, relentless in its fury. Are you prepared to meet it? I see the necessity of making haste to get ready for the crisis. The work of the people of God is to prepare for the events in the future that will soon come upon them with blinding force. Every time I read blinding force, I think, wow, those are pretty heavy words. When this thing cracks loose, it's very likely it's going to be with no warning. It's very likely we're going to go from business as usual to all of a sudden, it's never going to be the same. And then at that point, it'll be too late to try to plan ahead because it's already going. Isaiah 41, so while we have the reason to be, as Christians, to do some preparing for troublous times prophesied, we don't need to be fearful because Isaiah says, don't be afraid, for I am with you. Don't be discouraged, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will hold you up with my victorious right hand. There's that right hand again. We talked about that yesterday. The book Last Day Events has an admonition to prepare. Again and again, the Lord has instructed that our people are to take their families away from the cities into the country where they can raise their own provisions. Why? For the future problem of buying and selling will be a very serious one. What time of period is that talking about? When are you not going to be able to buy or sell? Little time of trouble, that's right. The Jacob's time of trouble is when you flee to the mountains and your bread and water is sure. But the little time of trouble, when the Sunday law is gaining momentum, that's when this will happen. Here we see a reason to prepare to be self-sustaining when the time comes when you can't buy or sell if you do not accept the mark of the beast. One advantage of being prepared is then when everything goes south, you're not spending all your energies trying to survive. You're enough prepared that you can now put energies into evangelizing, because in the little time of trouble, there's still lost humanity that God is calling out of Babylon. So, something to think about. There is a need for physical preparation. Now is the time to prepare by moving into the country. Now is the time to develop your gardening skills. In the first session, I showed how you can learn to do gardening even if you're still in the city in a 10th floor in an apartment house. Now is the time to work on being able to sustain ourselves during the little time of trouble, because the problem of buying and selling will be a very serious one. There will be a time of testing for those who claim to be Christians. This will require patience on the part of each person to withstand the pressures and temptations during the time of trouble. There is coming a time of life-altering challenges when we will be tested to the extreme as to whether we trust God and will be faithful to Him even under pressure, extreme pressure. There is, above all else, the need for spiritual preparation. Now is the time to draw closer to Jesus and allow Him to perfect our characters before the close of probation. Once probation closes, we will be protected by God and our bread and water will be sure. I've written a second book called Spiritual Preparation for the Time of Trouble. It's not published yet. I've written it, and it's all done except we're still proofing it. And I may do a seminar in the future on this subject of, we've done the physical preparation. This would be the spiritual preparation. Just interested, how many of you would be interested in that topic if I did it at camp meeting in the future? Thank you. Okay, helping those truly in need. Well, it's fair to believe that God expects us to do what we can do with the resources we have to prepare for the future. We need to plan to not only provide for ourselves and our families, but also be ready to help those who are truly in need during difficult times foretold in prophecy. From the tragic story of the people in Noah's day, we should understand that what is happening in this world is very serious and life-altering. We need to pull away from the draw of worldliness with its pleasures of sin and focus our energies on doing what God has asked us to do and tell others about the time of trouble that's surely coming. Matthew 24. Now learn from the parable of the fig tree. When its branch has already become tender and put forth leaves, you know that summer is near. So also, when you see these things, know that it's near, even at the door. When will the end be? We should know the season, Jesus said. No, we should know that it's near, even at the door. As the parable of the 10 virgins demonstrate, we need to self-examine our Christian experience. Do we have more than the superficial life of a believer? Are we allowing the Holy Spirit to change us into those who reflect Christ? If we're not accepting this transformation in our present life, we may find ourselves unprepared to stand in the final test. Now is the time for spiritual preparation for the time of trouble. It's important to learn from experience that God can be trusted. His promises are true. Those who will be faithful during the time of trouble will have the patience of the saints and the faith of Jesus. Spiritual growth includes not being bought or sold. In our inmost souls, being true and honest, and not fearing to call sin by its right name. We should strive to have a conscience that is true to duty as the needle to the pole. We need to stand for right, though the heavens fall. This is a settling into the truth intellectually and spiritually, so we can't be moved. By spending time with God and proving his faithfulness to us, we can trust him more and more. We'll get to the point that we trust him like a little child trusts his parents, even during the life-threatening times during the time of trouble. Are we at a point in our Christian experience that we have that kind of faith like a little child does with a parent? Great controversy, 622. The time of trouble such as never was is soon to open upon us. We shall need an experience which we do not now possess, and which many are too indolent to obtain. It is often the case that trouble is greater in anticipation than in reality, but this is not true of the crisis before us. The most vivid presentation cannot reach the magnitude of the ordeal. Pretty solemn words. Now here's a time chart. It's on our website. You can download it, look at it in detail. It's got all the references. But if you were to listen to my first presentation, number one on our 424 videos, number one was the very first time I did a country living seminar. And the name of it is Spiritual Lessons from the Two Times of Trouble. I grew up believing that there was a little time of trouble, then the close of probation, then Jacob's time of trouble, and you would have the plagues and fleeing to the mountains there. I since found out by looking really closely at the Great Controversy's description, there's actually 3 times of trouble. And Jed and I are going to have a conversation. He found a 4th one that's already going. But James White made a chart, slightly different names, but same timing. And that is that the little time of trouble starts with the Sunday law and ends with the close of probation. Then the plagues start to fall, and you might recall Ellen White says that the plagues are not going to fall on the righteous. They're going to fall on the wicked. And after a while, the wicked are going to notice that the righteous aren't getting the effects of the plagues. And so then they're going to make a death decree to get rid of them, because if we can get rid of them, we won't have this problem anymore. That's the second, that red line between great time of trouble and Jacob's time of trouble. This is my understanding at this point, and I'm looking forward to spending time with Jed and see about the 4th one, which is now, since probably 1844. But anyway, that chart, if you're interested in it, it's on our website. You go to the very bottom and there's a bunch of downloads, and it's there.
He that dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress, my God in whom I trust. For He will deliver you from the snare of the fowler and from the deadly pestilence. He will cover you with His feathers. Under His wings you will take refuge. His faithfulness is a shield and a wall. You shall not be afraid of the terror by night, nor of the arrow that flies by day, nor of the pestilence that walks in darkness, nor of the destruction that wastes at noonday. 1,000 may fall at your side, and 10,000 at your right hand, but it will not come near you. You will only look with your eyes and see the recompense of the wicked. Because you have made the Lord your refuge and the Most High your dwelling place, no evil shall overtake you, no plague shall come near your dwelling. For he will put his angels in charge of you, to guard you in all your ways. In their hands they will lift you up, so that you will not strike your foot against a stone. You will tread upon the lion and the viper. You will trample the young lion and the serpent underfoot. Because he has set his love on me, therefore I will deliver him. I will set him on high, because he has known my name. He will call on me, and I will answer him. I will be with him in trouble. I will deliver him and honor him. I will satisfy him with long life and show him my salvation.
Lots of promises in the Bible. Okay, the handout has videos that are on our website that are on the topics we've talked about. These videos are all on YouTube, but there's so many videos that it's hard to find what you're looking for. So if you go to the website, they're in groups. You can find what you want and click on it, and it'll take you to the YouTube video. Is it a lack of faith to be a Christian? Balancing physical and spiritual preparation. That's what we're talking about. Country living testimonies. Now, this young lady here walked into the cafeteria at Washington camp meeting a year ago, and I noticed her, and I told my wife, I said, do you recognize who that is? I don't know who that is, but I recognize her. And she says, I recognize her too, but I don't know. And she came straight to our table, and she says, I need you to hear my story. So I went to her where we could videotape her telling her testimony, and it's just absolutely cool. To be aware of new videos like this one, be sure to subscribe to the Preparing for the Time of Trouble channel. For more free videos and downloadable audio podcasts, as well as handouts, go to www.preparingforthetimeoftrouble.com. Topic categories include recordings of live seminar presentations, country living, sustainable gardening, homestead remedies, how to be self-sufficient when the grid goes down, wild edible and medicinal plants, hydrotherapy, and end-time Bible prophecies. To take advantage of these free resources, go to preparingforthetimeoftrouble.com.